approval of the meeting minutes from March 4th.
If there's no discussion, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Is there a second? Bill, Ron? Bill or Ron?
I'll second it.
Okay, Ron, thank you very much. Any discussion?
No.
Seeing none, all in favor? Alex, you first?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so the minutes are approved as is. All right.
Harry,
Sure,
can you
yes.
give me 2 seconds? Actually, I don't seem to have the stick I need. Let's jump in my office and get it real quick. Hold on.
No problem.
Pocket. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I can't seem to locate it. It seemed to got lost in the transit. We'll have to wing it without it.
All
Okay.
right, good. So, Will, the next order of business is a request for Lot Street address on Tutucket Road.
Yeah, we have a couple of them.
Okay,
The first one is a request from an owner that had a first cut division. That's a property, if you're aware, that they created a second lot by a survey. So obviously they need an address in order to get a building permit for that lot. And I would have shown you a map. We might have sent it. I don't remember if we sent that to you or not. But the area around it, I've also confirmed this with the assessor, that the suggested address would be 479 Totucket Road.
Okay. And does anybody, any of the other, like the police department, fire department, anybody have any comments, or is this general, just a general business item?
This is just really up to you under the town code, chapter 205. It's for the purposes of 911.
Yep. All right, so, anybody, on the commission have any questions?
No, but it's a good question you raised, Harry. So so there's no feedback loop to the police department. As long as we say that we approve, they don't have any say or weigh in on this?
Well, actually, you approve it, and then a certificate gets issued and circulated to all the emergency departments so they can enter it into the 911 system.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. All right, good. Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else from the commission? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Well, can you,
Oh, I gotta read the whole thing?
yeah, at least leave some of it so we know what it is, yeah.
Okay, I motion to approve the, where's this spot over here? Lot street address of 479 be issued to the what TH for the subdivision.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, Ron,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. That's approved. The next item is a request for lot dual street address, 298 Forest Road.
If everyone can do me a favor, since I don't really know you as all well, when you do make motion stuff, can you say your name so I know who you are? It's hard for me to tell from the computer, and I don't know your voices yet. So,
Okay.
all right, thank you. So this one is town-owned property. It's a large property. It has frontage, as you're aware, on Forest Road, which have an address of 298. This property then backs out to the others, to the east side, to the west side, onto Totucket Road, and the town requested an address there because there is sort of an access onto that side of the road. There's quite a bit of frontage, and that's primarily for 911 services should they need to go in that area on that side of the property, that they would be coming in from Totucket Road, and they want to put up a sign announcing the property as well as an address for it.
All right. Anybody have any questions on that from the commission?
Yeah, I have as Ron Sienna here, I got a question on this. Wouldn't this be confusing for 911? If someone thinks they're down one end of the property, when in fact they're down the other end, it's, Forest Road and Totucket Road are a good hike from each other cross country. Should this be divided into two lots?
Well, that's a bigger question.
I'm just wondering about this, that it's, it's one property with two addresses. Where are you? Are you on Forest Road or are you on Totucket Road?
Well, I think that was the thinking, is that if they needed to go in, if they were on the Totucket Road side, that's where they would want to be sent to.
Hey, Will, I have a question. So, Ron, good question. Will, who's requesting this? It's the police department, town, 911 people?
It's really the town from a
Thanks, Kurt.
application point of view for the Park and Rec Commission. It's the Donald Auger property. And they want to put the sign, and they just want to make sure it adequately notices where the access point is. Because it's 290.
Where's the demarcation? Where's the break?
So there is no break. It's just really the access point.
Where is this, Kirk, again? Kirk?
It's the Donald Auger piece next to Public Works, but it extends all the way over to Tucket Road.
Oh, right, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, wait, so is this where the gate is?
Yes,
Right by Donald Auger's old house?
that is correct.
Yeah.
We're almost right across from Auger Road Extension Road.
You're correct.
Okay.
And it's to identify that access if there's ever a need.
so who, Kirk, I didn't hear you, did you say the Park and Rec is requesting this, or?
They want to order a sign identifying it as the Auger property. That's was part of the original sales agreement when they acquired the property, that there would be a sign announcing it as Auger Valley. And they want to put an identifying street number on there.
So Kurt, why can't they just call it Auger Valley with no street marcation? Because like how Ron and everyone's been mentioning,
Yeah.
that could be confusing for emergency services. The only thing I could think of them resolving this is they did a separation maybe at the bridge, and then come back with this for that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Ron said and now Alex is saying. I mean, I thought it was the town and 911 people wanted clarity because they can go, if this is just a Park and Rec thing.
Oh, I mean, they were the initial ones. And it actually came from Anthony Esposito, who's the deputy fire chief.
All right, well, that's different. Okay, yeah.
And it's similar to the high school and the intermediate school. They're on one parcel. And there's two different addresses for the access of both of those. There's a 49 Caputo Road and
654.
or Boxing Road.
Yeah, I mean, as you all know, we're just trying to, the reason why we're rating this is you get a call and the dispatcher says it's at Totucket Road and they show up at this gate, you know, where they really want to be, or maybe vice versa, I'm sorry. They really want to be at the front of the Public Works, but they get directed to this backside and then they're like, okay, you know, lock boxes or whatever is there. I don't even know. You want to get the emergency services there as soon as possible. The most direct route.
Yeah, and I think that would actually help them because
Yeah.
it would identify where they should access the
Okay.
property.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk, I mean, one of the things is if we left it at one address and it's on the other side of the road, there's no chance they're gonna get to 641 Tucket if it's only one address. At least there's a shot that if there is emergency needed there and somebody knows it's 641, they'll have a better chance of getting there on that side of Tucket. Better chance than if you just left it at 298.
Right.
Hey Kurt, can they this might help just resolve this right away, is at the bridge, can they put demarcation saying if you need to contact emergency services, please use this address as soon as they go over the bridge both ways, and then I think this would resolve this.
I'd have to check with that, probably with
Yeah.
Public Works, Parks, and the town manager.
Yeah.
It's a possibility, we could check into it, but I don't have an answer.
So for me, I after getting all this information, at first I thought it was just a Park and Rec thing, trying to, and no disrespect to Park and Rec, but Anthony Esposito is the deputy fire chief. If he's asking, it's as long as the fire service is requesting for me, that's who should be really asking this, right? Because that's the most critical
Right.
service we need to get in there. So I'm okay with that.
Any other discussion? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the request of a lot dual street address at 298 Forest Road, assessor map 46C, lot 14.
Is
Suggested address 641 Tucket Road, owner, town of North Branford.
is there a second?
I'll second it, and this is Alex.
Yep, Bill Galdenzi made the motion. Any discussion? Bill,
I approve.
Alex,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
and I approve as well. That request is approved. All right. Moving along to the elephant in the room, application 2021-3 site plan, 654 Foxen Road, 49 Caputo Road, North Branford High School.
You want me to start or you hand it off there?
Is there somebody who wants to is gonna be reviewing the plans?
Yeah, there is, the team, the design team is here. I'm gonna share my screen with them.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll kick it right to the design team.
Okay, all right, very good. Okay, so my name's John Tunsky. I'm the landscape architect for the project with 2 Design. We're at 114 West Main Street, New Britain, Connecticut, 06051. We have a short presentation for you tonight for the new North Branford High School. I have Ryan Scritoral here with Benesh Engineers. He is the civil engineer for the project. He's going to go over the storm drainage and utilities, as well as Steve Ullman with Benesh as well. He's going to speak about traffic quickly, as well as Rusty Malik with QAM Architects. He's the architect for the project. So with that, I'm going to try and share my screen here. We have a short presentation for you. Okay, everyone see that?
That's good.
Okay. All right. Okay, so just give you a little background. So we obtained wetlands approval April 28th, as well as our zoning board of appeals for a height increase to 60 feet. That was earlier this week on May 3rd. This is an existing conditions aerial of the property. The north is to the right of your screen. Let's see. Right here is the main entry to the school off of Foxen Road. The intermediate school here, auditorium, and then the existing high school here. You can see parking is kind of scattered throughout the parcel on the north side and the south side. And then there is another access off of Caputo Road here. Let's see. You also have all the existing courts and the fields along the east side of the property. Wetlands is a large bulk of the property, not large bulk, but a good section of the property that is within this area here, and it extends to the north along the east side of the existing high school. Our proposed plan keeps the entrances the same, so the entrance off of Foxen and Caputo will have no changes. The main changes will be around the existing high school property, the intermediate school here, as well as the auditorium. The new high school is this tan building in the middle. Just to give you a little tour of the property, we have directly to the right of the auditorium, that is the existing circulation drive through the property right now. That is going to get closed off and become an outdoor dining area. That's going to include tables, benches, as well as plantings. To the right of that is going to be the main entrance to the school right here. The existing parking lot that's between the intermediate school, the auditorium, and the high school, that is going to remain, and that's going to be also used for the bus loop. The bus loop is going to continue along the south side of the school, and a new driveway is going to be built along the east side of the new high school, and that's going to take you north and south through the property. Right in the middle of the school on the east side is going to be an outdoor classroom that's going to feature some terrace seating. Directly across from that, we're going to have an environmental classroom with an observation deck and including some wetland plantings and remediation to the north leg of the wetland. Parent drop-off is going to be on the north side of the school, where this is the gymnasium area, so that is going to be along that face of the building. This parking lot and the new parking lot here in this new field, right now that is the existing north side of the existing high school. So that is our proposed conditions there. Service area is going to be located on the west side of the school between the auditorium and the high school in this area. Let's see. We do have extensive planting throughout the site. All those little green things are all trees. So we will be adding quite a bit of trees to the property. Our wetland impact, just to give you a little background on where that is our wetland impact is on the south side of the property right here. And we're mitigating for that by adding the equivalent amount of new wetland along the south side here, just north of the softball and Little League field. Let's see. Parking, currently there's 436 existing parking spaces on the property. We are going to be increasing that by 104 spaces to 540 proposed. And based on our communications with town officials, there is a need out here for additional parking during peak usage. So that includes typically when there's multiple events. So whether there's something going on at the auditorium or the gym, or multiple sporting events going on in the fields or the courts within the property. One problem with the parking is that it's not centralized. So you kind of have split areas on the north and south. So it's difficult for parking to be shared. So that makes the usability of it a little bit more difficult. So that's why, one reason why there's some additional parking. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Scritorol to speak about the storm drainage and utilities.
All right, thanks, John. And for the record, my name is Ryan Scritorol. As John had mentioned, I'm a professional engineer with Alfred Benish & Company, and our address is 120 Hebron Avenue in Glastonbury, Connecticut. So as John had mentioned, I'm going to walk you guys through the existing and proposed drainage for the site, and then I'm going to go into discussing the erosion sedimentation controls and the erosion for and the utilities for the proposed school. So the site in its current condition collects the stormwater through a series of catch basins and pipes, and then pipes it through underneath the existing building footprint to the wetlands located to the east of the school, as John had mentioned, which are delineated by the kind of bluish green area in the middle of, just to the right of the high school, if you're looking at it north going to the right. The wetlands right there act as actually a detention facility for the site. So it's basically a natural detention area that basically holds the water, retains it, and then discharges at a slower rate out to the outfall. The stormwater for the entire site actually is kind of an interesting situation. You have 3 wetlands on site. You have one to the north by the track area. You have one to the east of the school, and then one to the south off of Foxen Road. All 3 of those are kind of interconnected and kind of through wetlands. So the northern wetland goes down to the easterly wetland through a 54-inch RCP pipe, and then eventually drains from that easterly wetland as it acts as a detention facility down to the south towards Foxen Road to another wetlands, and then ultimately crosses Foxen Road and goes into the Burr Brook. So our goal with the proposed drainage system was to maintain the existing drainage patterns while providing as much treatment as possible for the proposed system. Currently, the existing system has absolutely 0 treatment, and it just discharges to the wetlands as east of the school, as I had mentioned before. The discharge points, there's actually 4 of them along that wetland. There's, I believe, 4 15-inch pipes that go underneath the existing school right now, and discharges to those wetlands. Our plan is to propose hydrodynamic separators on each of those drainage pipes that we're proposing throughout the site. We're going to maintain each of those outfalls to the wetlands, but by adding the hydrodynamic separators, we're going to be able to treat 80% of the TSS removal prior to discharging to those wetlands. We're also going to be adding in riprap plunge pools at each of the head walls to provide further treatment prior to the stormwater going into the wetlands. Another item that I wanted to note to you guys is that the outfall of the easterly wetlands is actually serves as both an inlet and an outfall for that wetland. It's kind of an interesting scenario you have going on the existing conditions. And what we really wanted to do with the proposed conditions was try to really isolate that inlet and move it up to the north a little bit more to allow for a little bit more, streamlined kind of inlet and outlet out of that wetland. So we kind of moved one head wall to the north a little bit from that easterly wetland to try to, maintain a more natural flow. So the existing storm network, as I had mentioned, had several pipes underneath the existing building, and the existing school is experiencing some water issues in the basement. For the proposed school, we've eliminated all but one pipe underneath the foundation of the school. The one location that we weren't able to avoid, we had to keep the one pipe going underneath the footprint of the school that's right at the hinge point of the school, right where MBHS is kind of on the plan itself. We weren't able to avoid that just because of the fact that if we tried to route around the school, we'd be too deep in order to get into the discharge point of the wetlands. But what we did do was we increased the size of the pipe, and we've added a couple of safety factors to make sure that there aren't going to be any issues going forward. So we are going to be replacing that pipe underneath the building footprint. The second thing that we're going to be doing is that the school is now going to be a slab on grade, so it won't have a basement in it, which will drastically improve that area. And then the third thing that we're also doing is that we're also adding a vapor barrier underneath the slab. So we're not really anticipating any stormwater issues going forward with the school itself. So, we did make a valiant effort of trying to remove all of those pipes underneath that building footprint as best we could. With the proposed design, as John had laid out, we are reducing stormwater going to the wetlands itself, to the discharge point, just by a means of reducing the impervious surface. So we're reducing the impervious surface of roughly around a third of an acre, or 3/4 of an acre, I'm sorry, which results in roughly around a 2 CFS decrease to the existing wetlands. With regards to the erosion and sedimentation controls, the design is in accordance with the 2002 Connecticut Erosion and Sedimentation Control Manual. Some specific best management practices that we're planning on implementing are silt fence, construction entrances, inlet protection via silt sacks and hay bales, some straw wattles, outlet protection, as I mentioned before, with preformed scour holes and hay bales. We're planning on putting in the hydrodynamic separators, putting in appropriate stockpile areas in areas that won't be influenced to the wetlands itself, and also adding in concrete washout areas. With regards to the utilities for the proposed school, we're going to need to maintain the existing utilities while rerouting some of them around the new building footprint. Specifically the sanitary sewer main that kind of runs right through the kind of wing that's coming from where it says existing parking spaces, 82 spaces, right around there. We have to route that sanitary around the building. Rusty will speak to the phasing a little bit later on in our presentation, but we're also going to be providing a separate water service for domestic water for the building, as opposed to right now, which is a combined fire and water domestic water service. And we're also going to be rerouting the gas and electric to the building as well. And at this point, I'd like to pass it along to Steve Ullman from my office to discuss the traffic for the site. Steve.
Good evening. My name is Steve Ullman. I'm a traffic engineer with Alfred Benish Associates. I'm a professional traffic engineer, state of Connecticut, and I did a traffic review of the school. It's not a classic traffic study in the normal way. The proposed school is going to have a population of about 524 students. Current enrollment is about 527 students. So it's not really going to be any change in student population at the school, no real change in generated traffic because of this project. It's more to meet existing needs. However, to make sure that the existing driveways to the local roads would be able to still can accommodate the traffic, and there are no issues. Turning movement counts were done at Foxen Road, at the school drive, and at Caputo Road at the school drive. We also did 72-hour machine counts along Foxen Road and Caputo Road. The primary reason for the 72-hour machine counts was to adjust for COVID. Right now is not really a good time to be doing counts, especially back in March and February. So we needed machine counts near where the state had done machine counts. And the machine count down on Foxton Road was almost in the same location as an existing count station for Connecticut DOT. And I'll touch upon that in a second. We checked the available site distances from the school drives, and the available site distance, intersection site distance from the driveway along Foxton exceed 555 feet in both directions. The minimum distance needed for 50 miles an hour, which is the 85th percentile speed on Foxton, actually it's 49 in the eastbound direction and 47 westbound, is 555 feet. Caputo Road, the speeds we measured were 38 miles an hour northbound and 37 miles an hour southbound. The minimum site distance for 40, which is above that, is 445 feet, and we exceed 445 feet in both directions for that driveway. So the sight lines from both driveways are meet and exceed all the standards. We also went through and pulled the crash data from the Yukon Crash Repository for the three-year period from January 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2019. I did not pull 2020 data because of COVID again, it wouldn't be valid. Review of this data shows there are no crash patterns indicating geometric improvements or signal improvements should be made. In order to adjust for COVID, I checked the 72-hour machine counts I took along Foxton Road with the Connecticut DOT counts, which is located just to the east of Route 22, count station 9817. Those counts were done in 2016, and the comparison of the counts showed that the counts that I did in 2021 were 92% of the 2016 volumes. Therefore, to create adjusted 2021 volumes, we increased the counts that we did, the turning counts, by a factor of 1.081 to create 2016 equivalent volume, then expanded that 1% per year for 5 years to generate the 2021 adjusted volume. I know it's kind of convoluted, but that's what we have to go through with the strangeness in traffic we experienced the past year and a half. Additionally, the school driveway volumes needed to be adjusted based on how many students are currently in session. When I did the counts, I spoke to the Board of Education, and it indicated the high school was currently at about 80% of students in the classroom, and the intermediate school was about 85 in the classroom. So I took the volumes for the driveways and increased them by 25% to account for that reduction in traffic. And then that created a new balanced and adjusted 2021 volume. I then adjusted the 2021 volume to 2023, which is when the school will be completed, and did capacity analyses. And the analyses show that the intersection of Foxton Road at Route 80 Foxton Road at North Branford High School Drive, Doral Farms, will operate at a level of service B during both the morning and afternoon school peak periods, and the driveway to Caputo Drive operates at level of service A, both westbound out of the site and the southbound left into the site. So there will not be any, there are no traffic issues currently being experienced at the intersections. There may be, you may see some backups when you're actually out there during school, because school is a 15-minute event, but the analyses show there's no improvements that are necessary at either intersection. I should note to you that because this school was never certified by the OSTA, and we are increasing the parking by more than 50 spaces, the OSTA will be reviewing this. In fact, we submitted to the OSTA for their review back on around the same time we submitted to the town. If you have any questions, I'll be here. And with that, I'll turn it over to Rusty.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening. My name is Rusty Malik. I'm a principal in the firm of Quisenberry, Arcari Malik, 195 Scotts Swamp Road in Farmington, Connecticut. So I'll talk a little bit about the building and the siting of the building. You know, there were various constraints. We looked at actually various locations on the site to place the new high school. and discovered the high water table in some locations. The wetlands obviously impacted the building. And eventually we came to the current location. The challenge was that we have an existing high school in that vicinity. So we did some soil tests and found that the soil conditions were really good. And said, we've really got to come up with a way of planning the building and building it in a phased approach that still maintains the education that's ongoing at the high school and allows us to construct the new building. This location, as we've shown it, is really, in our minds, was the best location because of the connection to the auditorium. The auditorium is a critical part of any high school. And so maintaining that connection made a lot of sense. The other issue we had with the high school as it currently exists is you really can't recognize where the entrance to the high school is. Caputo is a residential street. You come off it and really can't see where the main entrance to the high school is. So one of our imperatives was to make the entrance to the high school more of have a presence and be what we felt would be appropriate was to have it off the quad that is defined by the intermediate school, the auditorium, and now in this case, the high school as well. We go to the floor plan. So the floor plan, just to orient you, you see the main entrance. It's really at that quad. So at the bottom of the screen is the auditorium, and the building is in the middle of the sheet. Knowing that the school had to function as we constructed, what we came up with was a plan where we removed a small section of the existing high school, which enabled us to build what we call phase one. I'll call it phase one for our purposes here. And that's the main academic component of the building, which is a 3-story building at that point. So you can see where it says main entrance. You come in through secure lobby, secure vestibule into the lobby. To the right are the administrative and guidance functions. To the left are the cafeteria, media center, sort of the larger assembly spaces that are also public use spaces. And then as you go further to the left, you see that there's a dark wall there. That's the extent of phase one. That's at that point, the 3-story section of the building stops. For our purposes, we'll continue to the left. So phase two construction will be some of the technology spaces. Project Lead the Way, the wood and construction lab, a culinary program, and then the rest of that space is occupied by the gymnasium, locker room, and fitness functions. All of it, as you go to the north of the building, to the lobby, which is we're referring to the student entrance because that's where parent drop-off is. But that really is the athletic entrance to the building. So that's an event entrance. So there's 2 main lobbies to this building. One is for academic purposes. The other one is for community use purposes. And that from the north entrance, one would come in for any kind of assembly event, basketball game, or other event that could occur in the building. You go to the second floor. So here, you can really see how the second floor is on the lower floor plan. And you can see how we connect to the auditorium. So there's the existing bridge. At one point, we thought we wouldn't be able to maintain that bridge, but we were able to get a variance from the state to maintain it, which is really a big advantage because that's becomes an internal circulation pattern and eliminates a security issue as we look at students traveling back and forth in the building. The second floor is mainly academic. You can see all those blue spaces are academic classrooms. The white spaces are 2-level spaces. So the smaller one is the cafeteria, the upper level of cafeteria. We've got the upper level of the media center. And then as we go into the phase 2 section, you can see that there's a gym below. And then on that second level is also fitness for the school. In our design, we had to maintain egress throughout each phase of the project. And so the stair locations are not only for the phase one construction, but overall for both phases. There are two elevators in the school, one in the 3-story section and one in the 2-story section. The third floor is primarily math, science, and world language. The darker green areas represent science. Actually, the one lighter blue space has also now been converted to a science program. But the science lab that's to the left on the upper floor also opens up into, that's an environmental science lab, and it opens up onto the roof of the media center, and that space is going to be a green roof. Currently, there's a greenhouse which we were not able to maintain within this program, but there are elements of that program that'll be housed within the environmental science lab itself and on the green roof also. So that 3-story section really defines the phase one project that will be done at the beginning of construction. Next slide, please. So here's a rendering of the building. As you can see, it's the quad. We have the auditorium to the left. The goal was to maintain that bridge. So you can see how the bridge is right there. Our design is one, we know that the town wants gable roofs. They want durable materials throughout the building, not just the exterior. So our building facade is mainly masonry. The lighter structure is more stone, and then there are some metal panels as well. The gable roof allows us to screen all of the equipment that's up there. Much of it is within the gables, or there are some sections where we've actually extended the screen up so that there is no way that the equipment would be visible from the neighboring properties, particularly along Caputa Road, because that's a higher elevation. The good news is that on that side, the gable extends up as well. So you don't really, would not be able to see the equipment at that point, especially for the 3-story section. The main entrance is towards the middle, right across the sidewalk that comes in. And that's defining the main entrance. And to either side, the lighter components of the building. One is the cafeteria. And what we've done is use the lighter material to emphasize specialty spaces within the building. So for instance, the science program or the labs, those sort of specialty spaces have been defined by this lighter masonry, whereas the rest of the building is a brick that's matching the auditorium. Yeah, we had a lot of reference points. We have the auditoriums with the gable roof. So we have that to connect to. There's not a lot for the intermediate school that we wanted to reflect. There are some colors that we thought we could relate the buildings because they are on the campus. But overall, our approach is one very simple masonry structures that define, there was some reference to sort of industrial and manufacturing, just going back to the history of the town, that we felt would be important to include in the overall design of the building. Go to the next slide, please. So here's a view standing in front of the auditorium, looking at the entrance to the high school. As I mentioned, the sections that are the gable pieces that project out, those are specialty spaces. And then to the left, you see the cafeteria. And earlier on, it was mentioned there was outdoor dining. So the idea is that there's space that the students can come out from the cafeteria into the outdoor dining space, which would be available to the students. Next slide. Now, here's an image of that space. Now, this is really designed not just for outdoor dining, but it's also designed to be outdoor classrooms. So on either side of the bridge is a space that could be used as instructional space. It can also be a pre-function space for the auditorium, because there's not a lot of space there for people to gather. So at an intermission or any time, that can serve as a pre-function space. It can also be a place where kids hang out while they're waiting to be picked up by their parents, say, after school, so on. So we're trying to connect the space. In the background, you see one of the, when we close off this, this part, this road that goes through, part of it is student space, and then the back half of it, which is separated by, right now we're showing a fence. We think it may be transitioning to more of a masonry wall that separates the two spaces. On the other side will be the service components of the building. Next, please. This view is sort of on the east side of, looking at the east side of the building. As you saw, the building comes as a knuckle and then it turns north. So what you're seeing to the left is again more of the science program because it's reflected on both sides of the facade. And then you see the media center with the green roof over the media center. There is access from the media center to the outdoor space. And here, once again, we're showing that connection. So that walkway goes to the media center, but there's also an outdoor instructional space at that point. And then as we come further on the left side of the image, those spaces reflect more of the fitness spaces and some of the classrooms in phase 2 of construction. The athletic entrance, which is on the north side, is just that. It's you come into a lobby, a secure lobby, and from the lobby you either go up some stairs to the fitness area, or you go straight into the main gymnasium. That's obviously the hallway then goes all the way through and connects to the main entrance. So the idea that the parent drop off of students will come in off Caputo. Parents, when they pick up and drop off, will come off Caputo and exit off Caputo, whereas the buses would come in off Caputo, and because both schools have the same schedule, the buses will assemble in the quad or either drop off in the morning. They'll just drop off and continue from the high school to the middle school, and then in the afternoons they will come in and what we showed in our site plan was that the buses would be queued up outside the middle school in front of the auditorium in the high school, because all the students come out at the same time and access the buses at that point. So we looked at ways of making sure that that space was separated and there's no parent traffic going towards the quad. Next, please. And then this is just a night rendering of the building at night. Just trying to focus on how the building could look and lighting of it. One of our concerns is always, how do we light it? And is there too much lighting? We've had many discussions with the fire department, police department, and just to make sure that we are maintaining adequate lighting for security, as well as not creating a building that's lit all the time. There are some lights, I believe, that the police department wants on at all times, and so that's going to be something that we will determine, and we will circuit in such a way that they can have those particular lights on to define maybe the key traffic patterns through the night. I believe that's what we have.
Okay, and thank you, Rusty. And with that, we'll turn it back over to the commission for any questions, and we can keep the presentation up if you'd like.
Hey, Rusty, I have a question. I apologize if you did mention it. I see you're LEED certified. Is there any elements of sustainability and LEED elements in these buildings? Actually,
we had a conversation about what level to bring this building to. As a school facility, we have to meet high performance building standards. That's a requirement by for all educational facilities. And typically that requirement is equivalent to LEED Silver. So we're not formally going through the LEED Silver process in terms of our application, but we are, through energy conservation and other means, we are achieving that level of that level of points. We had proposed photovoltaics, at this point, we are going to be photovoltaic ready. There's adequate space in the electrical room for the system. There's going to be conduits going up to the roof. We've looked at alternative energy systems, and actually there's a potential. At one point, when we were in the earlier phases of the project, and actually pre-funding phases, we had a net zero building proposed as one option. Unfortunately, that was not accepted. So what we did is we've just gone with the high performance standards. But we're having some more discussions with the building committee. There's some members that feel that we should include other components that are more, that are more sustainable in terms of utilization of energy. I mean, we've talked about geothermal at one point. I know that was a sore subject with the school, with the town, because of a prior project, so that didn't go anywhere. But our building as a whole, in terms of its energy efficiency, we modeled it with we've done an energy model, and we're actually exceeding the base code requirements by 35%. And we hope the next level up is 38.5. And we're hoping to achieve beyond the 35%, but I'm waiting for the results from the energy model at this point.
Right, good, thank you. So in your opinion, so is that something, is it practical for the town at some point to, this is just pure speculation if we even want to do this, to seek like a LEED silver status? It sounds like we're kind of have the base requirements, we just haven't applied, or?
Right, and the challenge with LEED is that, it used to be that you just submitted all your documentation, you paid the fees, and you were able to achieve that LEED classification. Now you're actually required to maintain it, and there's a sort of annual or every 2 years you have to go through a process with it. And so most people don't keep up with that. So if the town decides that they do want to do that, and that's something that's important to them, I bet we can do that. We'll have all the documentation. I mean, we look at things, the high performance evaluates things like heat island effect and, outdoor, and the potable water use, things like that. So water use, all the same components of a LEED building and categories that define a LEED building are within the high performance building. So that might be something that could be done in the future.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yeah. It's probably more of a building committee and town council. I was just curious. So thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Could you go back to the first page?
Certainly. This one or?
Oh, the next one.
Proposed. Okay.
I'm sorry. Yep. So, you were just going over, Russ. I think you were talking about the flow of the buses. So what you're saying, that they're coming in from Computo, and then they're coming behind the new field and down, and then around to the middle school, and they're going to all kind of set up there and then leave out through Foxen. Is that how that works?
That's right.
Okay. So if they're coming off of Computer Road, is that going to be designated bus straight down through, and then make a left and go behind the new field? Or is it going to go down that service road, then cut in through where the trees are, and then back down?
It would come down Caputo, take a right, and then take the turn right off of where the field is, right there.
Okay.
Whereas the car traffic will come down and turn right there. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, would it be beneficial to just come straight down off of Caputo and then make your right and go behind the new field and straight down through? Because you're gonna have trees there, and there's gonna be a fair amount of parking there. So I didn't know if it would be, just something to consider. I'm not an engineer, but I'm just saying it just might make it simpler if it comes straight down and behind the field, doesn't get in behind the trees and everything over there and disrupt that other part, with other cars parking in there. Just a thought.
So one of our concerns was uh, some of the neighbors had spoken at other meetings and said, people are drag racing through here and so on. And by creating this sort of multiple turns, you calming the traffic. The other thing was if that field, people are playing in that field and other people are driving through there, that was a concern to us that kids are going to be in that field, maybe moving over to the next field. And now we've got, somebody in their car driving through. So we try to avoid that.
Perfect. The other thing is, what type of lighting? Because you mentioned that you want, there's a delicate balance there. What kind of lighting are you proposing, both on the street level and on the school, or actually on the school?
Yep, so the parking lot and the drive aisles will be a downlight fixture, full cutoff, kind of like a shoebox style, but LED. And then we were proposing more of an ornamental or pedestrian scale fixture, kind of a post top mount. Same thing, it's going to be a downlight style, full cutoff, and that will be around more of the pedestrian areas around the high school itself.
Okay, thank you. Could you go to, maybe we don't have to go to it, but some of the outdoor seating. So where the road is currently, that area is going to be potentially, outdoor seating, cafeteria, outdoor classrooms. What security measures are there as far as like fencing, so kids or people don't go in, can't get in there, at night? Or what's the strategy on that?
So
Go ahead, Rusty.
no, so we have a lot of cameras. We've gone through a whole security protocol with everybody in town, everybody from the police chief and fire department, and so that's been communicated with the Homeland Security folks, etc. So there's a lot of security built into the building. That area is not fenced in. Actually, one of the things that the building committee is debating and that we will be studying is placing a gate that could be a swing gate, so that one of the complaints that some of the neighbors have had is that people are driving through late at night. Some of them wanted a gate to close off right off of Caputo. I don't know how reasonable that is, but we're thinking that a gate could be placed, right at the driveway as it goes beyond the main entrance, the gym entrance, so that leg of the road. If there was a gate there, that would secure, people driving in and cutting through the property, but provide some security. Ultimately, one of the things the feedback we got is the police department, they patrolled the site, so they didn't want to have anything sort of closing off spaces. So we're going to have it as an option for the project, but they want to have a say in how that gets managed.
Okay, thank you. Will, do you have any referrals from any of the other, did anybody provide any referrals?
Yes, so you have a copy, you should have a copy, one was attached to my review memo from the Inland Wetlands Commission that approved the project. They didn't have anything specific in recommendations to you outside of their approval. You also should have got today the ZBA approval for the variance to allow the height. There is a letter that was from the Regional Water Authority, and they talk about obviously things like erosion controls being maintained and maintaining the wetland buffer. And there's more specific comments they suggest a dedicated refueling site be identified on the plan and that absorbent materials be stored on site, as well as the CDP response number, which is, things that are, if they're required, they're already probably happening anyway. And they commented about with the demolition that hazardous materials be addressed. Obviously, that's something for the building department that would address during demolition. Their last comment was obviously that as a agency that they should have access to the property during construction. Again, that will be coordinated during construction. There was a letter from the North Branford Police Department as traffic authority. Their comments really were holdovers from, I think, probably when the intermediate school was constructed. There was supposed to be some turning lane striping in Foxen Road that I guess never got done, and they're saying that really should get done. So that should be incorporated with this project. They also noted an ongoing flood issue that they raised with the state of Connecticut for a long time, just west of the intersection. That, and then the other comments, there really wasn't any specific comments from the building, zoning, or other officials. The fire department, I think, said their concerns are being addressed, and that was through the building committee. And Kurt had some comments as well regarding the sanitary sewers, which he can speak to himself, or whatever else he has to say. And other than that, it was my memo that raised several issues, questions asking, and revisions to the plans.
All right, this is Kurt. My comments were primarily regarding the sanitary sewer. It's the section has to be relocated on the eastern side, around where that building juts out into the wetlands. My comments were more making sure that those are adequately shown on there, and the phasing of the construction has to be spelled out just so that sanitary sewer is relocated prior to commencing work on the new structure. And there's just some details that have to be just added to the plan regarding the sanitary sewer details. The wetlands and drainage, yeah, they adequately addressed those, and that was discussed at the wetlands meeting. So no, so that was pretty much it.
Okay. Will, do you want to go over some of your comments?
Sure. So we talked about traffic, didn't really seem to have any issues with that. We talked about the other agencies. So a fair amount of my comments are some housekeeping things on the plans. My first comment regards the zoning information. Again, that's just really technical information to record in the plan. I had some comments about the landscaping, the landscaping in the new lot next to the practice field, the new practice field. I just had some minor comments about mixing the varieties up in a different pattern than they had, rather than in three straight lines. I also noted that there didn't seem to be a lot of transition or buffer between the new practice field and the road and the parking area. So kids would be coming in and out of those areas, and there really wasn't anything kind of protecting them or the balls coming out of those areas. And I don't know if there's something that can be done for that. And basically the other were about some of the lighting. And I'm assuming this practice field is going to be not lit because I didn't see any plans for lighting. They did talk about the green roof. So the green roof is part of the science program that I'm replacing what we can of for the greenhouse. Parking spaces was another comment. The code doesn't have a specific parking standard for schools. This code standard that I referenced is something that I've used recently in a revision of our parking standards for a community. The applicant did provide a calculation based on that standard, and obviously they're adding more spaces than even that calculation would create. That was circulated today. Parking layout. There's been some discussion about the efficiency of taking care of the snow. Some of the islands in that new parking lot next to the practice field aren't necessarily lined up with each other in a straight line. And I understand why. They're kind of having the same number of spaces on each side. But I'm suggesting that they can make some minor modifications so that it could be more of a straight line on the curb from tree to tree, just to make it a little easier for the snow plow. Also suggesting that maybe there is a crosswalk towards the ball fields, but there should be probably another walk from the sidewalk to the new practice field. And then my last comments are really just some technical housekeeping things that one that might be more substantive is the dumpster enclosure. It's just a stockade fence. My experience with stock fence, they're not very durable. There's been some suggestion maybe they could do three-sided masonry with a more reinforced gate or something else, or a metal dumpster enclosure. And the detail for the 88 spaces shows wheel stops. Wheel stops are, in my opinion, not very well recommended because they can be a trip hazard. And the signposts for the handicap space can be used to serve sort of somewhat of the same function, depending on where it's located. So those are my comments in a nutshell.
So, I mean, so tonight we're just, I mean, we have the site plan, and then all the other parts to it could be changing as we go. So that Will and Kurt, that falls on the project team, correct?
The design team?
Well, the North Branford. So, I mean, what are you looking for us to do? To approve this?
Well, I believe the game plan should be that we get some revised plans based addressing these comments so that we're more in order.
Yeah.
And I think there's still some few discussions happening with the building committee.
Okay.
And if we could maybe get some of that resolved to try to avoid having to ever come back, perhaps.
Yeah, good idea.
So we'll so what the goal, so we should do is table this or continue this to our next meeting?
Yes, that would be a good idea.
All right, by us not approving it, it's not going to hold up anything, right? I mean,
no, I think well, they can say better their schedule, but I believe by June would be is what they were most looking for. So we would have another meeting in May, so we should be fine.
Yeah. We'll make sure. Yeah, we have another meeting this month and another one in June. So, all right.
Jerry, I had one quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think this is more all the committees before us. I think might have handled this, but I was just wondering too is I think it was the gentleman that was talking about the traffic studies. He mentioned our current school and this future school can handle, I think it's like 500 and change of the population of the school. I didn't know, did that take into account the population demographics, like with the 2008 drop off and everything else? I'm assuming the school board took that into account and everything else like that. I just didn't know if those numbers actually factored into that, or it's just assuming what's been going on for the last couple of decades with the school.
I can tell you that the demographics for the school district has to do a demographic analysis and study. The 524 was the highest enrollment in the next 8 years. That's the projection that we went by. So for the school's purposes and the state's purposes, we have to go with the highest projection, as it's currently indicating that enrollment declines into the 400s. So we've taken the worst case scenario with the 524.
Okay. No, I just want to make sure that we weren't building a brand new school and it wasn't big enough for the projections or vice versa. So, okay, thank you.
The other thing, if I may add, is that we have considered that, it's one of those, if you build it, they will come. So we always need to have a way to expand the building. And on the east side of that building, that space is adequate to put classrooms on 3 levels. Up to 9, I think up to 9 classrooms.
You mean by adding a third floor on that second story portion? Is that what you're saying?
No, on the east side of the academic wing, there's a small green space right there, so that you can put a 3-story, 3-classroom structure right there connected to the school.
Cool.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other comments, questions, thoughts?
Yeah, I was, looking at the map that's up on the screen, and the outdoor dining, sounds phenomenal, and the environmental classroom and the observation deck, excellent ideas. Then I look at the swamp, and is there any? I'm torn on this one. The key word here is mosquitoes. You can't spray for mosquitoes and have a observation deck and environmental classroom overlooking it. Then again, you don't want West Nile either. So how are you handling the swamp? The wetlands, excuse me.
Well, we are improving the wetlands, but I don't think that's going to, remove mosquitoes. Just, thinking about program a little bit, when that space would be used, it would be used during the daytime where I would think insect activity would be lowered. So that's our vision.
The one challenge, because at one point we did talk about actually taking that finger out, that wetland finger as it discharges from the stormwater line, so that we move the wetlands further away from the building. The challenge with that is then you exceed your Army Corps of Engineer requirements, and we'll be stuck in Army Corps of Engineers approvals for a long time, because we would have to recreate those wetlands elsewhere.
Yeah, and that was also the most viable wetland section within that whole entire area. So one thing when we were doing the wetland applications, and we did show that little kind of darker hatched area within that finger wetland, we're actually remediating that wetland and pulling all of the invasive species out. So it's going to be a much more viable wetland. So, that portion of the wetland itself is actually part of the through wetlands. It's more like a drainage channel. So it won't be as much the standing water that would breed mosquitoes as down as you get towards kind of the bus loop where the buses are actually shown. So in kind of just a response to your question, I think the mosquito breeding area won't be as effective in that area as it will be as you move kind of south and east towards the bigger section of the wetlands themselves.
Good, thank you.
Anybody else have anything else? Somebody make a motion to continue us to the May 20th meeting, please?
Okay, so Will, is it adjourn?
Yeah, adjourn to the May 20th.
Yeah, I move to adjourn to the next meeting, application 2021-3, site plan 654 Foxen Road, 49 Computer Road, North Branford High School.
Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Alex.
Any discussion? Bill?
I approve to adjourn to next meeting.
Alex?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So that would be continued to the May 20th meeting. All right. So our next order of business, well, before we get to that one, Will, you sent out, somebody sent in a email about something we're going to discuss in other business. So we have, since it's not a public hearing, we wouldn't take any comments on that. What this is used for is for our for somebody who's considering bringing the application forward, just to give us an idea, so they can talk to us a little bit, maybe get some some thoughts or ideas. We don't really comment a whole lot because this could turn into an actual whether it could be a site plan or public hearing or for special use. So, but they just want to come and maybe get some general thoughts on these. So at this time, we do not take comments on these discussions. If it does become an application, public hearing, then the comments would be, people could come to the public hearing or send them in by email or by letter. All right, sound good? So on this first one, Will, is there somebody here to discuss it? Or are you going to be discussing it for them?
No, I'm not. Brian Panico is here, I believe.
Yes.
He's going to represent his own thoughts and his own proposal.
Okay.
For the record, my name is Brian Panico. I'm the principal owner of Panico Design, 9 Westwind Drive, Northford, Connecticut. So to just kind of briefly go over what the text amendment is, it is basically this started as like a modification. We were trying to figure out how we could maybe modify some of the regulations to kind of promote some new development techniques, some new development standards in town. And then as we started to go through, both with myself, Kurt, William, and this actually had started even prior to that with Carrie Duquez. It kind of, we came to the decision that the best probably path was to create almost a new regulation entirely. So a lot of the portions of this new regulation are very similar to the existing affordable dwelling in regulation, which is section 42A-0.8. What we've done is we've kind of taken that regulation and tried to do two things. We tried to make it, one, more desirable so that there are some more opportunities to use this regulation. And then also to kind of just change that regulation to make everything a little bit more appropriate as far as some of the new design techniques that are being used, some of the kind of benefits to the town of those, and I'll go through some of that stuff briefly. So basically this regulation allows for, we're calling it a multiple dwelling community. It's basically a condo style design. So instead of having individual lots on larger parcels, you would be able to do a condo, and that would take place in the R40 zone. There are restrictions and regulations as far as the size that unit would have to be. So the buildable area has to be a minimum of 3.5 buildable acres and a maximum of 15 buildable acres. You still have to have frontage on a town road. You still have setbacks. In this case, we've actually increased what the setback would be. We called it out as basically a 40-foot buffer from the project as a whole to any neighboring property line. And then the biggest proponent to this is, unlike pretty much all of the other kind of subdivision or open space subdivision regulations, is that this text actually requires an affordable component. So as the state of Connecticut, obviously, I'm sure some of us are aware, there's been a huge push within legislature to push for more affordable housing. And the state has gone as far as to promote things like allowing things by right and making all these changes, trying to force regulations. And so the goal of this was to try to kind of preemptively create a regulation that worked without dramatically changing the character of the town. So this is not like a regulation that says, we have, because I know in there it does say affordable housing at 15 or 20%. It's not a regulation that's pushing an 830G style agenda. It's a regulation that's just including affordability as part of the requirements in order for the town of North Branford to get as closer, project by project, to get closer to that required 10%. So some of the other kind of proponents and portions of this, density wise, buildable area wise, those numbers are very, very, very similar to what's already in the approved text. I think that the street frontage, and I'm going off of Will, thank you for kind of producing that whole kind of section that compared the two. I hope the commission got a chance to look at it. But a lot of these things can be easily modified. I didn't see anything through the conversation with Will or this that didn't seem like it could be modified to and would still work both, once again, like I said, from a desirability for developers to actually start using this. I mean, the last two subdivisions, major subdivisions that have been done in town, neither one of them, I don't think neither one of them even took a look at doing anything having to do with affordability or anything having to do with diversity of housing. And when we look at the town's conservation and development plan that was completed back in 2019, some of these the diversity of housing, some of these things were supposed to be, kind of top priority things that were supposed to be getting done ASAP. Whereas other things like the redesign of the high school and the new police station and all that were much further down the list, but we're not seeing any of that. And I think it's really, obviously a lot of it has to do with, COVID and not having anybody come forward. But honestly, I think more of it has to do with, there's not any, regulations that propose any of this housing diversity or any of this affordability. And so therefore, I think that's where it was important to try to kind of create one that, like I said, once again, still saves the character of the town. We're not talking about density and amount of 20 or 30 units per acre or high-rise buildings or, huge apartment complexes. This regulation is all still freestanding, separate individual houses. It's just condo style. So, it's all shared land. And the density is just increased to, I believe it's 2.5 units per acre is the smallest, and that would be requiring 15% of all of whatever units get created to be affordable. They're also protected affordable. So unlike the 830G, which I think requires it for 40 years, and unlike the town's current affordable dwelling requirement, which I think only protects it for 20 years, these are perpetual. So these would never change. These will always be affordable. They will always apply to North Branford's affordability numbers. And I think that these are the type of regulations that when the state comes in and starts to look at towns on a individual basis, as far as what they're doing to promote these things, this is the kind of stuff that they would be looking for. So once again, like I said, all individual houses, freestanding, separation distances between units. We've mandated at least a 25-foot separation. Currently in the R40 zone, you can have 15-foot side yards. So technically, two houses could only be 30 feet apart anyway. So and once again, those two people are neighbors. They own their own land. In this situation, this is a common interest community. That condo association would cover all that land. So as far as when you look at this from a maintenance standpoint, that's the next big benefit to the town. We're talking about private roads instead of public roads. We're talking about maintenance of all of the features of the site through that association, sanitary systems, the sewer systems. I believe in this, we've also required that either the site is either serviced by sanitary sewer or public water or both. In most instances, once you're on a private road, that would then become a private main, which means it's not the responsibility of the town. So that private main then becomes the responsibility of the association. The road is now the responsibility of the association. So we're taking as much off of the town as we can and putting it on this association, and in return, upping those densities slightly to hopefully create more housing opportunities, more diversity of housing, more different housing types in the community. Obviously, when we're talking about the sites that these would apply to, they're going to be the larger parcels that are remaining undeveloped in town. A minimum of 3.5 acres. That could even go up to the 5 acres, which is I think what the minimum is right now on the, which is the minimum on the affordable.
Cassie, don't worry about that. Just throw it in the recycling bin with that in there.
Somebody put you on mute, please. Thank you.
So with that, once you take into account the 40-foot buffers, all the setbacks, the separations, you're not inundating. It's not like we're inundating neighborhoods. We're also talking about the sizes of these, obviously, if you're increasing your density, you're doing smaller units, you're fitting in more units, but with the densities and the separations, I believe that they'll, also the requirement to maintain the character of the surrounding neighborhoods as far as building quality, building finish, building style, building type, you know, that will still maintain those things. So,
Brian, so one of the questions I have, so
Yep.
what was, so was section 42.8?
Yep.
So what did you see that was not effective, that where you had to write this new regulation?
So a couple of the things that I saw that I found were not effective, and this is was number one, was the requirement of a public road. That isn't as desirable to developers, it's not as desirable to the town. You end up with, at least in the town of North Branford, the requirement is 30-foot right of way or 30-foot road paved with, unless the commission allows it to be smaller. And then, you know, the setbacks as well are a little bit strange. In the R40 zone, the current setbacks, and actually I have them here, are required to be a 50-foot front yard, a 10-foot side yard, or in the affordable, I'm sorry, a 50-foot front yard, a 10-foot side yard, and a 25-foot rear yard. That also makes the minimum lot areas are 15,000 square feet. So what that ends up doing is it ends up making, basically you have an enormous right of way, which would be the 50-foot right of way. You end up with 50 feet of front yard. You end up with small house or with houses then up against the front property line in very, very small rear yards. And then therefore, what developers are going to do is eliminate the buffers, because now you're only required to have a 15-foot, or I'm sorry, a 25-foot rear yard setback. And so you're taking away that what could be the potential buffer there to the neighboring properties. So by eliminating the need for by not forcing it to be a public road and making this a private road, we reduce the strain on the town, we reduce the pavement width, we reduce the front yard requirements, and in this regulation, we're calling out 22 feet to the sidewalk or to the pavement, depending on which is which, and then increasing that rear yard setback. So that's number one. The other one is the actual lot area. We're no longer saying that there's a minimum lot requirement. They're not individual lots. We're grouping all of this together, which allows for us to then potentially take this and kind of cluster these things a little bit more together, make the site as a whole a little bit more friendly for the environment, and once again, increasing the amount of green space by reducing the total footprint that we need. You have an 80-foot building line and lot frontage requirement. Well, if you build smaller units and you build them with 25 feet, you could potentially reduce your road lengths, create more green space, create more opportunities for common play areas, common things, which was another component of that new text, which would kind of force that open space portion as well.
Also, I think on 42.8, it was a minimum of 5 acres. This is 3.5.
Yes.
Correct?
Minimum of 5 acres and a maximum of 15, I believe it was.
Yeah. So why further change it to 3.5?
That was, I believe, because in some of the other sections it was a 3.5 requirement, but that was if you did a cluster inside of an open space. For multifamily cluster inside of an open space, which is very confusing, which is why we got rid of it altogether. But I think that that's one of those numbers, at least in looking at a lot of the potential properties, that increasing it back to 5 would not be an issue. Would probably be beneficial.
This is just R40 and not R80.
Just R40, and I think that. And the reason for that is one, I believe that most of the R80 zone in town is already pretty well built out. And the other reason for that too is that in the R40, you know, you do have a slightly higher density already. Yeah, right. We tend to see a lot of lots that are kind of that minimum building width and then just really deep. So the houses are generally closer together from a side yard perspective. whereas the R80 is much larger, yes.
That was my question, yeah. So Kurt and Will, so the 50-foot setback, is there value in having that, or any perspective on that? I'm just envisioning, if this was to go through, you have a private road that accesses some of the lots in the back, but the one in the front now can go to 22 and a half feet from one of our public roads.
Yeah, what
Is
I
that-
would
is
look,
that a
what I would
problem?
look at
Yeah.
is more of a, which is part of what Brian is suggesting, is a perimeter setback. And the one at the street, that might be the same as the perimeter, or that might be slightly larger
Okay,
to maintain that continuity along the street.
gotcha.
So that's what I would do.
Yep,
It-
thank you.
Similar to Montgomery Village, that's a private road.
Yeah.
And they're separate, they're much closer. They're more like I forget the number, 25, 30 feet from the edge of the road.
Mm-hmm. Good. I had one clarifying question, maybe Kurt or Will. So, in terms of diversity in housing, would the 55 and older and Fowler Road in that overlay area on Fowler Road, is that considered, sorry, is that considered diversity of housing?
Yeah, any type of housing that's different it adds to the diversity, but that's tending towards one sector.
Yeah, no, I understand. No, I just wanted to clarify because, Brian, you had said that we have not done anything to do with diversity of housing based on our plan of conservation and development. And I think we've done some things, maybe not
Yeah, no.
as much as we can do, but we've done some things. I just want to clarify that for everyone. Thank you.
Correct. So what I was referring to was the plan of conservation and development specifically calls out certain things that, as far as that they want it to be done. So and I'm not 100% familiar with all of the with everything that was going on, and I'm sure Kurt or Will could fill me in, but that 55 and older is that in an R40 zone, or that's in one of those overlay zones?
Overlay.
In one of the existing overlay zones.
Yeah.
And so what the conservation development plan and what it exactly said was consider increasing permitted residential densities for developers who build smaller housing units. There was another section in there that said modify the zoning regulations to require multifamily residential developments of 10 units or more to have the 20% affordability. Consider regulation changes that increase densities that allow for duplexes and multifamily. So there's a lot of these things that talk about changing the zoning regulations to increase some of these densities in certain situations that would promote that same kind of diversity. And the town of North Branford does have a large selection, or not a large selection, but a selection of 55 and older with Montgomery Village and the one you just mentioned. It does have a selection of apartment complexes and other condo complexes, quite a few condo complexes that are where they're joined. I think the problem more is what we're looking toward is none of these things were built with that kind of forced affordability component, and therefore now I think North Branford, if I'm not mistaken, has an affordability rate of 2.9% or somewhere in that range when they're supposed to be at 10% based on Connecticut's codes. And so that was this is kind of one of those how we're trying to accomplish more than one thing at a time with this regulation.
Yeah, anybody else would like to comment from the commission? I mean, Brian, I'm just going to throw a couple things out here for you to think on, and then, and then you can, move forward or not, with this, but the minimum requirement, 3.5, the density, those are things that are going to pop up during any conversation we have, especially those. Maybe the road, I'm not really sure about that. So, those are just some of the things. The density and the minimum acreage, I think, is going to be the two key points on this.
I mean, do we think that it's too dense at 2.5?
Well, I don't want to get into, I mean, we don't want to get into a discussion. If you file this, you know, we can have a discussion then, you know, more to the details. I'm just saying those are the challenges I see. Any other committee members would like to speak up? I'm just saying the minimum acreage and the density are things that are going to be discussed if this comes in front of us. Anybody else? Alex, Bill, or Ron?
I just, Will, I apologize. You did a really nice assessment and I haven't really gone through it in detail. And Brian, you kind of alluded to some of it, but I want to be also, you know, comfortable and convinced that what we have is not really, you know, meeting the needs. I understood what you said, so I appreciate what you said and I don't discount it. I have to really just go through the details a little bit more. Just so, again, I'm comfortable with what we have is really not meeting the need, as you stated.
Yeah, and I think if without, you know, getting too much kind of further into it, I think that the other way to look at this too is, and Will, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure that this has ever actually been used or utilized. And if it has, it's certainly underutilized given our numbers, the 2.9%. So once again, you know, I've looked at a couple of sites personally that I think that this fits really well for. And I know I actually have put together a conceptual plan on one of those sites. And I think that it, just like I said, it becomes a much more appealing design strategy and a much more appealing development from, honestly, in my opinion, from both a place to live and a developer's standpoint. And I don't know if Will, if it's appropriate to kind of, if you have those to share both of those.
No, we shouldn't share that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we shouldn't share that. One thing that might become, it's something that would concern me is when you say a traffic study or analysis is not required, because this can go into any place in the town of North Branford. And we're not talking off of a main road of 22 or 17. This go off of any, you know, any road. So that would concern me. You might have, you know, I mean, there's a lot of small roads that may have the 3.5 or 5 acres necessary with sight lines and different things like that. I would think that may be, you know, that's something I'd have to consider making it required.
Yeah,
I'm just throwing it out there. So I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I'm just giving you, you know, not saying that's the way. I'm dead. I'm just looking at some of these, and you know, just giving you some thoughts.
Hey, Harry, I was also looking at the sewer. It has to be on a sewer line, and you know, I thought we were at or damn close to full capacity on all of our sewer lines.
Well, if you look at it, I mean, the regulation has 428.93F-2. It says that the lot shall be served by either public sewage, public water supply, or both. But then it says if wells or septic systems, whether individual or communities, are proposed. So I mean, that would, you know, there could be a mix and mash, but that would Kurt would weigh in on that. If this regulation passed and it was a property that came underneath that, Kurt in the
Okay.
in the this, what is it called, the
WPCA?
Yeah, WPCA
Yeah,
would weigh in on that. Ron, that's a great point, Ron. So we would have to that would have to be one of the referrals if we ever got that far. Anybody else? All right.
I just agree with what all the rest of the committee members have been saying, like how Ron mentioned with the sewer, but also the public or private water supply as well. It's depending where you look in our town North Branford, it's with the sewer, like Ron said, and the water supply, then it goes into, like Harry mentioned, the reviews and even like the local health department for can you do the private water supply or the sewer, this and that too?
Yep. Anybody have anything else? All right, Brian, I hope, this feedback we gave you, so, we'll, you take the feedback, and then, if you plan on moving forward, then we can get into more of the details, a more detailed discussion.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Will, the next one you have on other business is farm use tax amendment?
Yeah, this was kind of springboarding from the last time before I was here. There was some discussion about you withdrew your own amendment for the farm improvements, and there was some light discussion of trying to band together a group to maybe work on it. And so I was kind of asked to put this on to maybe see if there was interest in that, or if there is an interest, then there is an interest.
Well, yes, we were waiting to get, I guess somebody, and I don't recall, maybe somebody else from the commission can remember, they were talking about putting together a group to explore and write up some text based on that. Kind of taking what we had and kind of starting over. We haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, nor have I.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I thought, so I know for me, because I said it in the meeting, I can't remember the woman's name. I think it was from the Connecticut Ag Commission.
Joan Nichols.
Yeah, she had made the suggestion, and it's always resonated with me because I thought it was a great idea. You get some farmers together, you get some residents together, you get EDC together, you get planning and zoning, maybe even inland wetlands. You get just an ad hoc group of people together to work on this together, so that way everyone's representative, and then we can bring something substantial back to this commission, and I thought that was a great idea. So I don't know whatever happened to that. I thought the plan was to get that moving.
Well, I think it was to get the farmers to get together and take what we had and kind of, bring something to the table. But yeah, I don't know.
No, it was a group of, it was specifically mentioned, and it's in the minutes, a couple of meetings. Yeah.
So Bill, like what you mentioned, I think back when Kara was still here, they're trying, I think Cliff Potter and a few others were trying to get the Ag Commission back once they had that, to do like what you just said, Bill, with like what Jones mentioned, and to carry like with what Harry was trying to do with going over, trying to talk things out, this and that. I don't know if the town has done anything with Ag Commission. I haven't heard anything. I haven't actually heard anything from Cliff since the last time he's on one of our meetings. But I know too, we're going to farm season in the fields and everything like that.
Yeah,
so
that's true. Yeah. Good point. Yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah, because I was just wondering, does the Ag Commission, is that an essential element that it has to be back in place, or could it just be you guys meet and select, a couple representatives? We're going to have
even Bill, they could just bring us a text amendment. We can, if they bring a text, instead of having a discussion and putting a group together, just get a few people to put a text amendment, and then we can, modify it. It's going to take months and months and months to put a group together just to have a discussion, to get a text amendment, to submit it to us to have another discussion. My thought is put something out there, get a few people together, put something out there on paper, let us advertise it, make a public hearing, we can continue it forever as we modify it, and just get the word out that we have, we're going to be working on this, in planning and zoning. Yeah, otherwise, the only part of that is the summer's going to come in the fall, and people may want to have events. Right now, you're not allowed to have events on your farm, like we were originally talking about.
Yeah, so, I think the benefit of the group, I totally understand what you're saying, is that you're getting you're getting a diversity of thought on that. And it's not just, not there's nothing against the farmers, because it's about the farmers
Right.
making them viable, but it's also getting the residents' perspective, EDC's perspective, and some little bit of planning and zoning in the wetlands. So you're bringing all that perspective together. That way, what comes here is kind of got all that perspective already in place.
Well, all I'm saying is I'm not confident that it's gonna get to us anytime soon if we leave it the way it is. That's all I'm saying. I mean, that's fine by me. I don't have a farm and
I understand.
Well, I mean, I'd like to have an opportunity. I like to create the opportunity so it was in place.
Yeah.
So going into the summer, but we won't, I mean, we're at the end of May, basically. The next meeting's end of May. You got to publicize it. It's going to be at least the fall at best if we got it in June.
Yes, understood.
So, I mean, so that's what I'm saying. The longer waits, I mean, you know, I was hoping to have these, you know, create these opportunities for our farmers to have it in place earlier this year, but we withdrew that. But
yeah.
I mean, if we wait for this whole big group to be put together, I don't see it ever happen in the near future.
Well, to Alex's point, it's probably not going to happen now anyway, because the farmers are in the farm or in the fields.
Well, yeah, that's
so.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Just my 2 cents. Thanks.
But yeah, you could. In other words, Will, what you're asking is we could take that off the agenda until.
Yep.
Until somebody pops up. So town planners report.
I don't really have much to report other than, we don't really have much on the docket coming forward. The only thing really active is the high school.
Okay.
We have some, you know, inklings of different things. We did talk to people from the age restricted housing on Fowler today. They're gearing up, but I don't expect that for a while, given that, you know, Kurt is retiring and we've got to get a replacement for Kurt. I did want to talk about the June.
Who's retiring?
Oh, sorry. Did I say something that people didn't know?
That would be me.
I didn't know that. Okay, well, we'll take that. We'll talk about that later. Right? That's the first I've heard of this.
Cool.
So try it out.
Good for you.
So schedule-wise, obviously, we have the meeting for May 20th, and the high school will be on that yet again. You also have a meeting scheduled for June 3rd. Before taking the position here, had already had that week scheduled for not being in the area. Whether you want to have a meeting without me, that's certainly up to you. If you want to reschedule the meeting, that's fine too. Or if we just want to wait and see what the agenda items come, maybe we won't have a meeting because we won't have agenda items, but just putting that out there too.
Yeah, we'll wait to May 20th on that.
Okay.
So, is there anything else, Will?
Nope.
Okay. So, Alex, Ron, and Bill. So the committees are meeting in the chambers. So I don't want to put any undue pressure on anybody. So somebody asked me if we wanted to go back into the chambers for our planning and zoning meetings. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just email me a yay or nay, and I'll get in touch with Trish. And if somebody doesn't feel comfortable, that's fine. We'll keep on doing the Zoom meetings. They've been working pretty good. And if somebody doesn't feel comfortable this time going back into the chambers, we can revisit maybe in a couple of months, maybe at the end of July or something like that. So if you could just email me, your thoughts on that, just a yay or nay about going back into the chambers. All right.
Gotcha.
Harry, are you gonna send a message out to each of us individually for the yay or nay, just to have that?
We can do that on our end if you want, Harry.
Or do you want Will to do that?
Oh, okay. Well, if you want to do that, that's fine. Yep.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, if somebody says they're not comfortable, that's fine. We'll wait. We'll go another 3 months, and we'll revisit at that time because this is working out fine for everybody.
Yeah, I know some of the committees in town, like you said, are doing it. I know some of the state committees, they're still going with Zoom meetings.
Right.
Like you said, it all depends on everyone's comfortability. And I think Zoom works for a lot of our residents too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe there's a way we can do both. So going forward. But anyhow.
Good.
Any, anything else?
Kurt, when is your last day with the town?
The end of June.
Okay, good. So it's a little bit from now. Good. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
not good, but I mean, good that I'll have a chance to talk to you and hopefully
Yeah.
see you. Okay,
thanks.
good.
Say, Kurt's got the right idea. He's going to retire and then come back as a consultant.
Right.
Going fishing.
You're going fishing.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Is there anything else? I'm seeing Ron.
Yes, sir. I am here. I am off mute. And Kurt, retirement is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, jealous.
I'm looking forward to trying it there, Ron. Thank you.
Hey, just think, Kurt, just think, you and Ron can have breakfast every morning together. And Ron's going to pay. That's what I heard.
Okay, there we go.
I'm having a lot of static on the line here. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
it's breaking up.
Exactly.
All right. All right, Ron.
Okay, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I motion we adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you for
Good night,
joining.
everyone.
Night all.
Bye.